Coach, it's got to feel good to be back in South Carolina after a short stint at Vanderbilt. I guess why this job? Why now?
Well, I tell you, first of all, your first question, it really is. I've been out of the state for 25 years. Obviously recruited some here. We signed some players out of it over the years, but you know, it's home to me. I went to school right down the road, and it's a pretty special place. Caught a lot of fish right over there in that lake while looking at that stadium, dreaming about it one day, and now it actually happened. So it's a very good feeling to me. And now the next question, why? Well, I got fired. I was unemployed, and I was looking for a job. Now, one thing you'll find out about me, don't ask me a question you don't want answered. Well, I ain't afraid to answer. I ain't smart enough to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the way it is. And that's why I appreciate if you don't ask me nothing too difficult. But the people at Furman will be mad if I say I'm not very smart. But I slid out there with a diploma. So, literally. No, it was a great thrill. You know, I met Coach Sweeney recruiting against him. And just a great human being. And I really didn't know much about him. But Coach McCorvey, Woody McCorvey, I've competed against him, Coach Brooks, Coach Steele. You know, I've competed against them for a long time. Coach Harvey was at Ole Miss, you know, when I coached against him. So, you know, I feel like I've known these guys and just a, you know, great fit. Coach Pearman I recruited for about 2 weeks till I found out he was too good for us when I was recruiting at Furman. So. So you know, there are connections there. It's just a great feeling to be back in this area.
How did the opportunity come together for you to come here to Clemson? I know you said you got fired at Vanderbilt, but how did it come together that you and Coach Swing got contacted?
Well, that's a good question. Coach McCorvey called me one day and just to say hello. We were talking, and I could tell in his voice, you know, something might be up, but I didn't know. You know, they didn't let the cat out of the bag, and they, you know, he asked me what my plans might be. I said, well, I'm just looking for a job, and, you know, enjoying my family right now. And it was first time in, I guess, 30-some odd years that I wasn't worrying about writing a recruit, calling a recruit, or something during Christmas. So it's a pretty special time, you know, being with my daughter and my wife. But and then, you know, I got a call, and Coach said, you know, that Coach Scott had been talking to him about what he might like to do, and that he had recommended me, and you know, which meant a lot to me because I've known Coach Scott for a long time, and competed against him when he was coaching at Florida State and I was at NC State, and we had a great time competing against each other. So, and then of course I called on Jeff's school when he was coaching at Blythewood, and so I got to know him, and that was pretty neat. So it was just a perfect fit for me.
Did you ever think you were going to did you ever consider taking some time off, because it seemed like that Vanderbilt situation was really stressful? And
Understand one thing, guys, I was not an SEC head coach, money-wise. Okay, I sat in the seat about 4 months. I took the job. Obviously, I was honored. Don't get me wrong. I was very tickled. But basically, to keep everybody working. Coach Johnson retired, and it gave me an opportunity to sit in the seat. I've been doing it a long time, and it was great to get a feel for all the things you have to do. In the process, I was training a football operations guy and associate athletic director. I was trying to help them do their job and mine. I was doing it all, so that was a lot of fun. And but you know, it didn't work out. And, so I said, well, I just didn't feel comfortable sitting around. I was driving my wife crazy, you know, so I spent too much time at home. After 30-something years, well, we've been married 22 years. Me being on the road recruiting, she kind of liked her time and then our time, you know, and that sort of thing. So finally one day she said, you got to get out of the house. And so I was driving her crazy. But seriously, you know, I never thought about not coaching. technically I had a year left, but you know, I just said no. And you know, my deal was if I took another job, all that's cut. So, you know, that was okay. I was glad to do it, keep everybody working and had fun.
Is that part of the appeal of this job that you don't have to, you're not necessarily responsible for selling the entire program and trying to, I guess, build a program at a school that's tough to build? You just kind of get to coach.
Well, yes. Don't get me wrong. First of all, you got to understand me. My goal has never been. Well, let me put it this way. I've never been consumed by the fact that I got to become a head coach. I had come to the conclusion that at my time in my career, that would probably never happen. I'm not a network guy. I don't get on the computer and hang out looking for another job. When you hire me, I'm going to work for you. I'm a company man. I'm going to be working hard, and I'm not looking to go anywhere else. I'd like to retire right here. And that was my plan at all the other places. I'm there, and I don't care what other folks got. I'm going to sell you what we got. And of course, seeing this school and knowing this school, and it was a great opportunity to actually recruit kids. You know, I've been selling ice to Eskimo for a long time, and so it's really good to, you know, to be in a situation like this and to really, you know, get back into coaching a position. I felt a little out of place, quite frankly, this past year. It was in a good way. I got to know all the players. You know, every coach knows every kid's name, but you don't really know them unless you coach them or work with them, as Coach Batson does on a daily basis. Because, you know, when I started in this business, I was offensive line and strength coach, so I knew everybody. And that was fun. It's great to get to do that, and I did that, and got to watch our coaches coach, and you get to really see how good they are when they actually teach. You sit in a room with them, you playing with them, but you don't actually see them teach because you got a group. And that was the thing, I was just running everywhere, watching them having a big time. So that part was very enjoyable. I would not turn down the opportunity to be a head coach again one day, but that doesn't consume me. I want to be the best offensive line coach in America. That's my goal, always has been. And that's what I set out to do. All I ever wanted to do when I left college was be a teacher and coach. And this opportunity came, I never dreamed. I don't know how do you become a college coach? I didn't know that. But my position coach got the head job. He brings me back. I'm 22 years old, coaching guys I played with. Here it is 35 years later. So that's just kind of how it worked.
Talk a little bit about some of your influences, coaching influences in your career, guys that you worked with, guys that you know.
Absolutely. I've had so many, from Coach Bill Few, who played here. You know, he was very important to me. He came along a time in my life. I came from a broken home, and you know, he took me under his wing, and that was pretty special. And then, you know, all my coaches, obviously, there's too many to name, but he in particular, because he coached me in football, and then Dr. Ed Jones coached me in baseball, and he's the first one to let me drive a tractor. I mean, a riding lawnmower. I've driven tractors because it was on the farm. Riding lawnmower, I never even had a push mower with a motor on it, man. We had a sling blade and all that stuff, and that was pretty cool. Line the field, Lord mercy, that's how I learned to line the field. Baseball, and you know, he kept me. I lettered in baseball in the 7th grade because of it, because I hung around, all that stuff. So those guys, and they knew what they were doing. They knew my situation, and it was a tough time in my life, and they made it very, very good. And then when I get to college, I got Coach Baker, Art Baker, all y'all know him, Dick Sheridan, Jimmy Satterfield, Steve Robinson, who's no longer with us, but you know, they meant so much to me. I tell you what, I just hung around them all the time, and then when I finished, you know, they asked me to stay. Of course, my 5th year, I was working on my undergrad now. I didn't tell y'all that now. I only told my mama, hey, if you're embarrassed, tell them I'm a grad assistant. That's what everybody said. But technically, I reckon I was a student assistant. But, and I got a good taste for it, and then I got hired at hand-in-hand with Dr. Buddy Jennings, who later became Doctor, Superintendent of Schools over in Spartanburg, who was a big inspiration to me. He's always followed me anytime there was a coaching change. Never failed. Phone would ring. I hadn't talked to him in 5 years. He said, "I got a school open. You want it?" And it just those kind of people. But you know, that's what happens when you work for good people. You give them all, and you're not looking over your shoulder to find out if there's greener pastures. And that doesn't concern me. I want to do the best I can do for Clemson University, and that's just how I am.
Talk about your philosophy as an O-line coach, and number two, when you were on the recruiting trail and you're evaluating tackles and guards, what are some of the things that you really look at?
Okay.
That you feel that you need?
Well, my philosophy is pretty simple. I tell all my players, first of all, you know, great character. I'm going to expect you to do. I was a sorry student. I know all the tricks. I was captain of the study hall. I stayed in there for 3 years. Ain't nothing to be proud of. So they can't pull the wool over my eyes. I've been very fortunate. In all the years I've coached, I've never had a guy play for me 4 years and not graduate. So I know all those things. That's first and foremost, being a good person, you know, doing what you're supposed to do, being accountable. As far as football goes, number one, they got to overcome their coaching. Okay? Number two, laugh at my jokes. And if they do that, we're going to be pretty good. Because I'm going to push them hard and you know, go from there. But I like to have fun. I just told them yesterday, you know, in the brief moment I got to say hello to them was that, hey, we'll have a time where we're going to have some fun. We're going to joke and cut up and have a big time. But then we're going to turn that switch and it's time to go to work. And you got to be able to do that. You know, there's far more important things in this world than football. All right? They people down there around here somewhere trying to cure cancer and things like that. Don't get me wrong. And I know everybody loves it. It's important. It's important to me. It's the way I make my living. But I also know there's other priorities in young people's lives. What I want them to know is when I got them, it's football. I want them to be serious about it and let it go. But, you know, their well-being, very important to me. And I want to do everything I can. But I'm going to coach them hard to be the best they can be and make us as a team be the best we can be. And that's my philosophy in a nutshell. But I want to have fun. You know, this is a hard game. It's not for everybody. So we got to make it as enjoyable as we can because we're losing guys to other sports because they're easier to play. You know, more fun to practice. As you rather practice football, think about being a lineman. You ain't going to get to catch no pass or nothing now. But you go over and get in the gym, they're going to throw it to you, you're going to shoot it. Baseball, you hit it, you throw it, you catch it. I played them all, so I know. So we got to find ways to make sure they enjoy doing what they do. And the life of a lineman is pretty tough sometimes. So that's how I approach it. And we're going to work hard at it, for sure. Now, what was the second part of your question?
When you were recruiting, just
when you evaluate, well, you know, it's a little different this day and time. I've never said a kid's got to be this tall or that tall to play. I've never told a kid he can't play. I've told him we might have some ranked higher, but I'm never going to discourage a kid. There's a place for everybody. If you want to play this game, there's a place for you somewhere. May not be at Clemson, may not be wherever, but size does enter into it. It's more about arm length, you know, their ability to carry X number of pounds. We may have to look at our linemen right now for what we're going to do offensively and say, well, you know, you got to lose 20 pounds. We'll know more once we start working them and watch them. But, you know, I look for how well they can bend. Can they get in a stance? You know, not many young men get in a stance anymore. By that I mean put their hand on the ground. Most people playing in a two-point stance now, so it's a little more difficult. You know, I used to work hard trying to teach one how to play in a two-point. Now you got to teach them how to put their hand on the ground. So everything's kind of reversed. Guards used to be the quick, fast guys. Now they the big, bulky guys. The tackles were the big brutes. Now they're the quicker, longer arm guys because of the speed of the game and big guys inside. So a lot of different things we look for in the recruiting process. But inside, I don't have a problem with height. Outside, height usually goes with arm reach. Not always. I've seen a lot of great 6'2", 6'3" guys, that's got long arms. They can really play. It's still about leverage, so that hasn't changed.
And as,
What do you,
go ahead.
what do you know about the guys you have, I guess, in the cupboard already, guys that are coming back, starting? And
Not a whole lot. Coach Scott's gone through the roster with me on all of them personally, about their lives, what's going on, where they are academically, those type things, and his opinion on how well they can do some things. Obviously, we're going to have to watch some, but what I've tried not to do is watch a great deal of tape on them. I don't want to form any opinions right now. Sometimes I think, all of us, need a fresh start sometimes. We can't go back and start over, but we can start and have a new ending. And so that's kind of the way I approach it. I don't want to I want to watch them and see how much they progress from this point forward. And but we got to have a starting point, so some of it will have to be done. We got to set it too deep and start out.
Last year at SEC Media Days, there was a lot of talk about the agents and everything, and you were widely credited just with your humor and everything for sort of bailing the SEC out of what was kind of an embarrassing weekend. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you were kind of the star of the show by the time it all ended.
Kinda.
Okay, you were.
That was not the intent. Like I say, I'm very honest and open. Sometimes I tell you too much, but all that just evolved. They ask about that. I got a lot of guys that's played in the pros. I got a lot of guys who work in the pros. Even one that's assistant general manager will soon be a general manager. But pro ball to me, guys are paid too much. And it's kind of like coaches, you see what's happening. But with that, now becomes a lot of responsibility for coaches. They'll get rid of you. So one justifies the other. Sometimes in pro sports, I don't know. They get paid too much and they hadn't earned it, in my opinion. And don't get me wrong, I want all my guys to be able to go to the pros if they choose to. But I want them to go with a degree. I just think sometimes we lose sight of things. I know the longevity, the wear and tear on the body, but playing pro ball is not a right. It's a privilege. So, and all this going on, Kevin, my wife, spent the season with me. I love that guy. He's president of the Players Association, and so I learned probably more than I should have. Not that he talked out of school. It was obviously, he would explain things for me, and that was. But the media days just evolved. I mean, it was a very fun day. Most people dread it. They tried to prepare me. I said, I ain't worried about that thing. We got to worry about football games. And, oh yeah, but you don't know how big it is. No, I don't. So I was, they tried to make me a nervous wreck. And I studied. I didn't even know all our players where they're from, and you name. And I said, heck with it. That's where honesty comes in. You tell them the truth. Well, some guy says, do you remember your first job? I said, hourly paying? Yeah. So I told him, well, then it's off. So, the guy, when I took the podium, he was apologizing. Well, we got 40 minutes allotted for you. Most of them take about 10. Whatever you feel. I said, okay. So 43 minutes later, he's tugging me on the britches. Hey, Coach Rick's got to come in here. Okay. So, but, I like people. And so I'll talk to you about it. If you don't need to know it, I'll tell you. But that's just the way I approach it.
You get recognized in public any better than that little story you told?
Well, a little bit, but you know, where I was, football ain't quite as important as this around here. So, but no, they thought I was joking about that thing, but I was just being courteous to open the door, and the man tipped me. So, lady, all they had, but that's neat.
Going back to Coach Morris and that offense, it's kind of unique, but yet it has its roots going way back.
Mm-hmm.
With you, it's just no different. It's just coaching offensive line play, being in a system like that.
That's correct. We've done it all. Everybody here's done it in some form or fashion. It's just a combination of it all, what you try to add to it. And there's some things that's got to be accomplished. Your quarterback's got to be able to do certain things. You got to have receivers because they can still load the box. And lockdown man out there. If you can't shake one free, you're going to be hurting now. That's where Auburn, they did a good job, but they had a tailback at quarterback. And then he could turn around and be a quarterback if he wanted to. So there's some things you have to do. And we got to be good in the offensive line. That was the thing that impressed me so about Clemson. Quite frankly, Auburn was lucky to win versus Clemson. So this thing could have been entirely reversed. So you never know. Football's a game of inches, and all the cliches you've heard is actually true. Comes down to one play. But as I tell those offensive linemen, it's never down to one person's deal. Because there are a lot of opportunities for someone to make a play in the game. Always are. People just don't see it. And it's like I told them, we were talking about the different things. They were talking to me about the season and, this happened, that happened. I said, yeah, but how many blocks did we miss or whatever? So, clean up around your own back door before you say something about somebody else's. And but not that they didn't do that. That's just the way I approach it.
Last year it was kind of like we've got to have 8 guys that we can depend on. 9 guys would be fantastic. In an offense like this, is that still kind of the number that you shoot for, or do you have to really see if you can build some even deeper?
Well, here's my thought on that. I've never had that many. I say never. When I first went to Vanderbilt, they had 7 offensive linemen. In the first game, one broke his leg. But I got 6. Now you're trying to hold practice every day and do it. So the other thing, even when I did have people, I'd love to play everybody. They work hard, but you got to earn that right. Working hard is not all of it. There's a thing called productivity, And if you ain't producing, you can't be out there because we got an obligation to everybody in this room. So, and the other thing is, offensive line, it's kind of like that tailback. You pitch him that ball enough, he'll kind of find, what's going on, fill it out, see. Offensive linemen the same way. We kind of got to fill out what's going on over here. It may start off slow, the sledding may be tough, and then all of a sudden you find that slicky spot, and here we go. And so my point is, it's hard to rotate constantly. You don't get a feel of the game. If we could play 2 units, man, that'd be awesome. But the second part of your question, yes, we're going to play fast. So you got to be in good shape, and in the hot weather especially, we may have to roll them in there. And the great thing, Coach Scott's done such a super job now, watching their stance and those type things. Man, I tell you what, it's been good. So they're really coming. And I'm walking in here with some experienced guys, so which I've never been in that situation before, so that's pretty neat.
How do your philosophies on offensive line compare to what Coach Scott does in terms of style and what you want to do with guys?
I think it's very similar. you know, we used to visit, talk ball and stuff. So I think it's very similar. I got to see him this past spring. I believe his son was in a school or something at Vanderbilt. He came up, and so I got to see him a little bit. And, pretty neat. He hung out at practice with me, and it's a good time for me.
Did you think that you should have had some more time at Vanderbilt, or did you know when you took the job that unless something really special happened, that it wouldn't last?
Well, I know what I was told, and I know what I felt. You know, I knew it was going to be a tough year. Everybody did, but I have no afterthoughts, second thoughts, whatever. I'm glad I got to do it, but you know, at first it was like, we're gonna give you time, this and that, but you knew in your heart, no, unless we did something special. You know, we had some chances. I mean, we didn't get it done for whatever reason, and so it is what it is. And the way I look at it, if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here right now. And as I said, I'm not the type person. I'm not consumed with, you know, oh man, if I don't become a head coach. Hey, I've had a great run in athletics. I tell people I got, I don't know, 60 or 70 grandchildren. That's the way I look at it. All the guys I've coached over the years and married and have children, and I got two right here down the road. Two of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet, and they're so excited, you know. But it's very special.
All set?
What was your second job?